Welcome to Tech Talk Episode 8. Additional videos are still under development on this channel for the Unreal Engine 5 World Partition series. The next video that I'm currently working on researching and scripting for is the Landscape HLOD system. There are some interesting results, such as an LOD screen size of 1.0 on a 16321 by 16321 landscape requires a commit of 730 gigabytes of memory to build the HLODs. So that would require a computer with 512 gigs of RAM memory and a 230 gigabyte page file on a fast drive. It's a good thing that I have my new workstation to be able to test this. It looks like Unreal Engine 5.3 is giving us more fixes rather than new features. So I will be testing out the World Partition multi-import capabilities soon, if 5.3 even has it. So far, in the UE 5.3 preview, the only changes that I see to the landscape system is new regions, which break the landscape into larger sections that can be individually loaded and unloaded. Instead of drag drawing a rectangle in the minimap to load cells, you now click on a region. The landscape regions also have a visual wireframe cube actor in the editor viewport. It looks like multi-import isn't completed yet, at least from what I have been able to find for new features. I also have Unreal Engine 5 videos planned for the new biome devices in TerreSculptor, and biome and splat map videos coming for Unity and Godot. Some of you might be wondering, why does TerreSculptor have separate control for the height map and terrain altitude and scale? Or you might not have noticed at all. For example, the height map range can be adjusted with the altitude device, and the terrain mesh range can be adjusted with the terrain properties spacing XYZ values. Height map range is adjustable, because if it were always normalized to 0 to 100, then doing things like creating a base rolling hills for the brush device mountain brushes wouldn't work. The height map adjusting is also for creating masks with different alpha ranges, such as 25% to 75% gray, which wouldn't be possible if the height map were always normalized to 0 to 100. When working with the height map for typical terrain use, though, the height map should always be normalized to full scale. And before exporting to a lossy file format, such as 16-bit PNG, the height map should be normalized if it is for a terrain. Unreal Engine 4 and 5 have very poor memory management and coding practices for height map importing. For example, with 128 gigs plus 24 gigs, TerreSculptor can do height maps of 180,000 meters in floating point format, versus UE stuck at a maximum 32,000 meters on 5.0 and 16,000 meters on 5.1 plus. With 512 gigs plus 24 gigs, TerreSculptor can do height maps of 360,000 meters in floating point format, versus UE stuck at a maximum 42,000 meters on 5.0 and again only 16,000 meters on 5.1 plus. Unreal Engine 5 also has poor coding practices for such things as the world composition to world partition conversion system. On my R9-5950X 128GB DDR4 RTX 3090 system, it took more than 26.5 hours to convert a 32 kilometer by 32 kilometer world composition over to world partition. And the Windows Task Manager showed that it was using less than 1% of CPU, less than 1% of GPU, and hardly any drive usage either. Epic needs to get on the ball and fix this stuff up to be more performant, such as full processor or memory bandwidth usage, or even multi-threading. With Unreal Engine 5.2 and its nanite mesh system, There will probably be more people starting to use meshes for terrains instead of the landscape system. The cons of this are no landscape spline deforming and sculpting tools, so meshes have to be fully prepared in external software. This means that if changes are required to the terrain layout, that the mesh will have to be changed externally and re-imported, such as another Blender or Max or Maya mesh modification and another export and import. This also means that TerreSculptor will be expanding its mesh file format and export and handling capabilities. There are plans for a mesh converter tool that performs raycasted conversion of any type of mesh into a height map, including TINs, which are triangulated irregular networks, and plans for additional mesh-compatible file format output such as FBX. One of the plans for FBX file format is to also use color IDs for the splat map layout on the mesh. Be sure to watch this channel over the next week for the Unreal Engine HLOD video and the 5.3 preview landscape updates video. That wraps up this episode. You have been watching Tech Talk with Demenzun Media. Please consider subscribing to the channel to help me in the YouTube algorithm.